bills that former Mayor Eric Adams had vetoed in the final days of his term. I'll talk about that and much more with City Councilwoman Sylvina Brooks Powers. For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Thursday, January 29th, 2026. I'm Errol Lewis. City Council Speaker Julie
Other proposals to save money, one bringing down health care costs for public sector workers, and the other proposal to save money would be to reform no-bid contracting, Errol.
So real interesting around these efficiency officers or savings officers, whatever they may be. Whatever they're going to come up with is going to be on the far side of the preliminary budget presented by the mayor in the next couple of weeks.
That's right. And important to note, they're not going to hire new people to find these savings and give them a paycheck. They will be existing staffers. That was, of course, one of the obvious questions. But they are going to be from the agencies, and they are going to have some time to figure this out. I guess one of the big questions is, do they does Mayor Mamdani and his finance team put in a placeholder? What's interesting is it seems to be a little different from what Mayor Adams had done when the migrant crisis was requiring all this extra spending on shelters. He had what we would call the PEGs, the program to eliminate the gap, and that was more of a blank percentage, and they would have to find the cuts to save the money meeting that percentage. This seems a little different, and it looks like for Mayor Mamdani, he's tasking these chief savings officers to basically analyze the most expensive programs and then look at what is the driver of those costs.
Right, and if they don't have a number that they're chasing after, which is what happens with PEGs, with the program to eliminate the gap, they'll come up with some savings, but we don't know if it's going to be a little or a lot.
Exactly. And of course, whatever he proposes has to be negotiated with the council. And you heard in that story, that report, that the council has its own ideas on how to save money. I thought what was quite interesting from Council Speaker Menon is trying to see the money, the tax money that a lot of nonprofits get. Are they actually meeting the demand? Are they actually doing what they tell the city they are doing and getting that taxpayer money? There's quite a large number of nonprofits that do a lot of important service. I think this is actually one of the first times I actually heard a member of the council, a council leader, basically say, we got to make sure they're actually delivering and making good on that tax money.
Right, but she wasn't talking about clawing it back, meaning this won't be cash saving. We're getting good value for the money that we are definitely going to pay out.
Exactly, and you also heard some of those proposals. So let's take a look at the health care, right? She said the city is on the hook for $11 billion on public sector health care, and she says she wants to use the city's bargaining power to bring those costs down. So that would be one of those areas the city spends a lot of money on. What can we do to get better value off of that dollar?
Right. And this is, of course, something she was working on as a council member and trying to get the city to start using its buying power to try and push down the cost of drugs and some of the other costs that really have driven up city operations when it comes to taking care of the workforce.
Right. Of course, I think one of the trade-offs you got to be careful of is if you start negotiating down how much you pay, are you going to have a trade-off where the services are not being met? I mean, Mayor Adams got into a big...
What it does is allow drivers to have an independent appeal that the companies do not control. You can file a complaint with a city agency that can investigate an unfair firing. It's a comprehensive set of rights for drivers.
But not everyone is on board. Brendan Sexton, president of the Independent Drivers Guild, or IDG, which represents over 80,000 rideshare drivers, says they supported the bill until critical parts were changed.
It says only if DCWP has resources will they take on cases.
IDG argues this will eliminate the use of neutral arbitrators and become a lengthier process. It claims rideshare companies plan to bypass the system by going to the Taxi and Limousine Commission to get drivers' licenses revoked.
Right now, drivers do have recourse. They can come through us.
In a statement, Lyft said the new policy will harm riders who are victimized and that they are already taking steps to improve deactivations. Instead of forcing through this flawed version, we should work together on a solution.
While this bill will go into effect in 180 days. At City Hall, Samantha Liebman, New York 1.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, we'll take a closer look at how the Trump administration is changing its strategy in Minneapolis as it draws back the number of immigration agents on the ground. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
When you're connected with Spectrum, you get 5G and fiber-powered internet combined for the fastest wireless speeds. So you can sweat for the right reasons. It's only the seamless connection you love at home, everywhere you go. It's only everything.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
From foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done at the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. The Trump administration is changing course in Minneapolis, saying now that a draw after conversations with state and local officials. This comes as the mayor of Minneapolis told the U.S. Conference of Mayors that the fight over the administration's immigration enforcement policies is a battle for democracy. Our national political reporter, Taylor Popolars, is at the White House with the latest.
Errol, what's been striking is this marks the first time the Trump administration is scaling back in any meaningful way some of these deportation operations that have been taking place across the country, but most notably recently in Minneapolis. And it came after the president swapped out the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem with the White House border czar Tom Homan. White House border czar Tom Homan on Thursday made his first public appearance in Minneapolis after being put in charge of immigration operations there. We are fellow mayors to call for it to end nationwide.
We got to hold rock solid. We cannot back down. Our cities, our mayors are what will hold this democracy together.
On Capitol Hill, Minnesota lawmakers sought clarity on Homan's next steps in Minneapolis.
I think ICE needs to get out of Minnesota. I think it is dangerous when they are there. So I'm looking for much more detail than he offered today.
Another notable moment on this Thursday, Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine announced that Secretary Noem from DHS called her and informed her that enhanced ICE activities in her state would be coming to an end. This marks another change by this administration as they deal with this nationwide backlash. Errol?
Thanks, Taylor. Here in the city, more than 40 unions and organizations have gathered tonight to honor the life of VA nurse Alex Preddy, demanding justice after he was shot and killed by ICE agents on. Lewis Finley is outside the VA hospital in Kips Bay with the latest. Good evening, Lewis.
Yeah, good evening, Arrow. Hundreds of people showing up for a memorial vigil in protest in memory of Alex Preddy, who was shot and killed by federal immigration agents less than a week ago. As you see, there are still some stragglers here creating a makeshift memorial here outside the Manhattan VA. Protesters chose this location because Preddy was an ICU nurse for the VA in Minneapolis. During the speaking portion of the vigil, we heard from several people, including elected officials, advocates, and nurses expressing their anger and outrage with what they're seeing from federal immigration agents across the country. They're demanding justice for Preddy, Renee Good, and others who have died in immigration custody. The two officers who shot and killed Preddy have been put on. Borders Czar Tom Homan was in Minneapolis saying that there will be improvements from the agency and that improvements can be made, but that has done little to ease concerns of protesters tonight.
How do you shoot an innocent man over and over again who's already dead lying on the ground, who is just trying to protect somebody? That's not okay. And how the politicians, the Senate, I mean, how could the House of Representatives actually pass the bill for continuing funding ICE after what just happened?
In his last moments, he chose to put himself in harm's way at the defense of another. In our community, that is one of the most honorable things one can do in their life. But Alex Preddy should be here today with us. Not because federal agents chose to unholster his legally owned firearm, remove it from his person, and shoot him until he stops breathing.
Now, as people here continue to remember Preddy, the protests are long from over. We've had several over the last week, and there's going to be a large, sizable one down at Foley Square tomorrow. Errol.
All right, thanks very much, Louis. It is time now for a break. Coming up, the driver who crashed into the Chabad headquarters yesterday is facing multiple hate crimes charges. We'll bring you those details in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
To the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
On Stage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
It's only a hike. It's only made possible by Spectrum Business connecting healthcare providers of all sizes. Like hospitals relying on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network with industry-leading reliability. Practices keeping patient data safe with advanced security. Pharmacies accessing records in the cloud without fail. It's tailored connectivity solutions built for life-changing moments. It's only a hike. It's only everything. Spectrum Business.
Mom was always started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard. At first we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood, because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. An investigation is underway after a car crashed into Chabad headquarters in Crown Heights, Brooklyn last night. Police officials say that the driver is in custody and facing multiple hate crime charges.
Mr. Solhall has been charged with attempted assault 1 and 2 as a hate crime, reckless endangerment 2 as a hate crime, criminal mischief 2 and 3 as a hate crime, and aggravated harassment as a hate crime.
New York One's Emma Barnett was at the scene earlier today and joins us now with the details. Good evening, Emma.
Good evening. So what we learned is that the perpetrator's name was Dan Sohal. He's 36 years old and he's from New Jersey. He drove in a 2012 Honda Accord, and the NYPD chief detective said that they reviewed footage of him parking a few blocks away from the Chabad, walking over, removing some of the barricades, driving a little bit closer, and ultimately ramming into the synagogue 5 times. Apparently, he does not have any criminal history in New York City.
This video, posted on the Citizen app, shows the moment a car continuously rammed into the entrance of Chabad Lubavitch World Headquarters.
I saw a car rammed into the synagogue, and he went back and forth.
13-year-old Mendel Lightstone was inside Wednesday night and says he ran to see what was happening.
He would have gotten through it. He could have done a lot of damage.
Officers placed the driver under arrest. A bomb squad conducted a full sweep of the car. No explosives were found. No one was injured. This incident happened on one of the most important days for Chabad, the day the Lubavitch rabbi accepted becoming the 7th rabbi of Chabad.
It's not very normal that a guy comes and rams a car into the doors.
This was extremely frightening for me. This is our headquarters. It's our safety. It's our safe zone.
Despite the concern, the faithful here say they are resilient and continue to pray, dance, and celebrate.
When something like this happens, we don't just fold our arms and cry. We stand up, we get together in other places, we find places where we can pray, where we can be ourselves.
We need to share light, and we don't chase darkness with sticks. We chase darkness with light. Each one of us has to do more and more goodness and kindness around us. Don't focus on the negative. Focus on the positive. Bring more light.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani came here Wednesday evening, along with State Attorney General Letitia James and Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
Any threat to a Jewish institution or place of worship must be taken seriously. Anti-Semitism has no place in our city, and violence or intimidation against Jewish New Yorkers is unacceptable.
Rabbi Mordechai Lightstone praised the city's response.
A city that takes anti-Semitism seriously and takes any form of hate or violence or danger seriously is a city that can protect its citizens and help us all do what we need to do, which is to come together and unite around positive things.
This incident is being investigated as a hate crime by the NYPD Hate Crime Task Force. Rabbi Lightstone says anti-Semitism is incredibly troubling and it needs to be combated with light.
Who taught in this space for many years that said that a small light can deflect a lot of darkness, and that if each and every one of us can increase in goodness, take inspiration from this place in this moment to proactively do good in this world, that we can combat anti-Semitism head on by addressing the root cause.
The NYPD says out of an abundance of caution, there will be increased presence at all houses of worship across the 5 boroughs. And on top of that, anti-Semitism is a real problem in New York City. NYPD data from 2025 shows that while only 10% of the city's population is Jewish, anti-Semitic incidents accounted for 57% of all reported hate crimes.
That building on that block probably has more cops and cameras than almost any place outside of police headquarters. I'm wondering what this person thought, how they thought they were going to do this.
Yeah, so there was definitely a strong security presence at Lebanon. And Dan Sohal, the person who committed this crime, claims that he was wearing big boots and his foot slipped.
Right. But you're saying the video shows him, you know, shoveling snow so he could have a clear path and moving barriers and so forth. And then his foot slipped 5 times, I guess.
I guess we're early in the investigation, so we'll have to see what happens.
Not much of a defense. Thanks very much, Emma. Meanwhile, a new lawsuit accuses the NYPD of disproportionately stopping and searching Black and Latino drivers without probable cause. The lawsuit was spearheaded by the New York Civil Liberties Union, the NAACP, and the Bronx Defender Services. Black or Latino drivers made up more than 84% of vehicle searches between 2022 through September 2025. But white drivers made up less than 4% of vehicle searches, according to the lawsuit.
The searches are not driven by the evidence. They are driven by racial bias. This is not acceptable, and it must come to an end. The NYCLU will not let the NYPD treat our city like a Constitution-free zone.
This practice is unconstitutional, and we call on Commissioner Tisch and Mayor Mamdani to ensure that it comes to an end.
New York One reached out to the NYPD for comment. They referred us to previous comments made at a city council hearing on public safety last April. The NYPD's Director of Legislative Affairs said, quote, anytime you have more police officers in a certain area, as a result, you are going to see more enforcement. You are going to see more car stops. You are going to see more searches. The new lawsuit comes 3 years after a law took effect requiring the NYPD to document every vehicle that it stops and whether enforcement action was taken. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined in studio by City Controller Mark Levine. We're going to talk about the city's $12 billion budget gap and what that will mean for New Yorkers. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never. As the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Burke.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network. And factories, seamlessly connecting to farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice. It's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. As we have reported, the Mamdani administration is blaming the city's $12 billion budget gap over the next 2 years on former Mayor Eric Adams. Mamdani wants to close that gap by increasing taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers. But just how bad is the city's fiscal outlook? Joining me now to talk about that and much more is City Controller Mark Levine. Welcome back to the program. Great
Thank you, Errol. Great to be here.
Is this budget gap really as big of a deal as the mayor is making out to? I look at, $12 billion over 2 years of a $120 billion budget. It's about 5%. It's not great. It's not expected. It's not anybody's preference, but it's not catastrophic, is it?
No, this is a big challenge, though. I think we have time to act smart and decisive and solve this. That's why I sounded the alarm a couple weeks ago, because I don't want us to kick this can down the road yet again. Doing very well, and that's important for our tax receipts, which are up this year and will probably be revised up yet again. It's really going to help for the gap this year. But we're still looking at over $10 billion for the fiscal year that starts in July, and there's no way to tackle that without finding some savings in city government. We've got to reverse this pattern of just hiding expenses and then kicking the can down to future years.
Well, yeah. I mean, explain what that means. Why were the previous mayor's budget estimates so far off from the previous controller's budget?
We have some budget lines that are growing really fast. We have a housing voucher system, which is great. I'm very glad we have this to help people who need housing. It's called City FEPS. Errol, it's growing by 4% a month.
A month?
Yes, a month. And that means it's doubling every year and a half.
Sure.
And so it was in the budget for the fiscal year we're currently in for about $600 million. It's going to come in at over $2 billion. And the gap is even bigger for the next fiscal year. program that we can all see is growing, you're going to be in for hitting a gap. That's exactly what happened, but it's unprecedented the scale. It's not just city FEPs. It's overtime. It is the special ed cases known, Carter and Connor cases, which we project could hit $1.5 billion next year. There's a series of big expenses that are growing fast that we're not budgeted for, that we're now reckoning with. If we're honest, I think we can bend this curve, make some smart decisions about cost savings, and avoid a more serious problem down the road.
I mean, if we're being honest, you're not talking about budgeting. You're talking about limiting, right? I mean, what you're saying is you cannot have a program grow at 4% a month indefinitely. I mean, sooner it will consume the entire budget, right?
Look, step one is to be honest about the scale of the program, which we have not been until now. I do want to commend the mayor for embracing our estimates on the scale of the gap. But step two is then controlling some of these expenses, and there are going to be some tough decisions ahead. But as you said, this is not catastrophic. We're not talking about mass layoffs. We're not talking about major reductions in city services. Smart savings across city government, especially with these programs that are growing so fast.
You made mention of known expenses that have been understated year after year. I was wondering what in particular you were talking about.
Well, I've mentioned a couple already. City FEPs, also shelter cost is another, cash assistance, where you can see the curve, it's going up. Somehow it makes in the budget much lower, and oops, surprise, we need an alteration mid-year. And it's just been a way to kick the can down the road, and we can't continue.
Well, what does that do to the argument about raising taxes on the wealthy? Because in the abstract, everyone should pay their fair share. I think nobody would disagree with that. In the particulars, though, you've got runaway costs, and then someone sort of saying, let's take more from these people to cover those runaway costs.
Yeah, look, I think everything has to be on the table, including new revenue. But I feel that before we have a strong case on tax increases, we've got to get our own fiscal house in order. We've got to find some savings. There's no way out of this without some of those actions. To me, that's got to be, and I'm working on it myself.
Go back a few years and put yourself back in the city council where you used to serve.
Yeah.
If a controller had walked in and said that to you, what would be the reaction?
Look, there is generally a tension between different branches of government here, and it's true the comptrollers tend to be a little more conservative. I think that's partly our job. But in this case, it's not just me. It's the state comptroller. It's the independent budget office. We're all projecting a gap, and now the mayor, too. So we can disagree perhaps on the details, but there's a consensus that we do have a problem to fix.
Okay. Mayor Mamdani also says there's a structural problem in the fiscal relationship between the city and the state. Here's some of what he had to say. Let's play that.
One of the sources is the city's relationship with the state, where the city contributes 54.5% of the state's revenues, but only receives 40.5% in return. If we had in fact had someone with a vision of helping the city, we would not have been looking at the 10 years prior to that we did with then Governor Cuomo. Because I think this was someone who sought at almost every opportunity to shift the cost burden from before he was governor. It wasn't that wide of a chasm between what the city was contributing and receiving. The chasm is a direct result of his leadership of the state.
What is your view of that? What burdens were shifted from the state to the city?
Well, it's true that we are the economic engine for New York State. We're an economic engine for America. We send much more money to Washington than we get back, and more money to Albany than we get back. And that has been exacerbated in recent years, especially through unfunded mandates. And as comptroller for New York City, I'm going to be advocating to help rectify that. But our gap is at a scale that I don't think it's realistic to expect the entire amount is going to be covered by the state. I think we're going to need a mix of solutions here that I hope will include help from the state and will also include savings inside city government. And I do want to acknowledge a really big victory. The governor's put $1 billion on the table for free childcare. Kudos to the mayor for fighting for that. So we have something to celebrate already. I'm hoping for more. I'll be going to Albany next week for what's known as Tin Cup Day to make this case. It has some work to do itself, and I'm going to be fighting to make sure that happens.
Is Celebration premature? Is this another program that, like City FEPs, is going to explode if you create a permanent entitlement for everyone who has a kid, that we're going to take care of your kid starting at age 2? I could see that going up in a geometrical growth rate that we can't sustain, right?
Well, City Fest is entirely funded on our dime. It's how it's conceived. It's New York City's Section 8, essentially. Sure. And education in general, and childcare in this case, there's real state buy-in. So, sure, I suppose there's risk out years, but with the state's involvement, which has a larger budget than we do, I think we're going to be okay. And at any rate, this is a critical service that we need to provide for families who are struggling, so I do support it.
You said you're going to Albany, the mayor's going to Albany. Yeah. Are you all going up as a team? Are you going to have a unified message?
Well, our teams talk constantly. Certainly, my budget team and the OMB direction. And look, we've definitely agreed that there's a serious budget gap we have to tackle. That doesn't mean we'll agree at every step of the process in the weeks ahead. We'll be reviewing the mayor's budget proposal. It's due in under 3 weeks. We'll be looking at it with the critical eye. That's what the comptroller does. Mm-hmm. And to the extent that we don't agree with some of the steps, we'll call it out. But we are united in the imperative of closing this gap. And I think we're going to go up to Albany with that message.
Okay. Let's talk about the overall health of the New York City economy. You are reporting that high-wage sectors like finance, professional and business services, and information have been seeing very little growth or declines in payroll compared with, I guess, government and healthcare are going up.
Yeah. Oh, there's really two economies in New York right now. Stock market's doing really well, but job creation has come to a screeching halt in New York City. There's only one area that we're seeing real creation in, which is social which really across the rest of the private sector, we're actually net down jobs in the past year. And if you talk to a young person who's trying to break into the workforce, maybe they got a good college degree even, it's very hard right now. Some economists are calling this a no fire, no hire economy. We're not seeing layoffs, thank goodness. We are also seeing very little hiring. This is the other half of the affordability crisis. Half of the affordability crisis is escalating cost in housing and more, and we got to deal with that. But if you don't have a job, that is a major challenge to your pocketbook.
What are the employers telling you? Why aren't they hiring?
You know, I think there's several reasons. There's, in my opinion, early impact of AI, where we're seeing automation, particularly for entry-level white-collar jobs. We are facing competition from other parts of the country. They're creating more finance jobs in Texas than they are in New York right now. We've got to address that. And some hangover from the pandemic as well. So a variety of causes. But I'm worried about this, and I'm worried it could get worse. And I think we as a city have to talk much more about what we can do.
Are we in the media maybe mischaracterizing the conversation by focusing on the back and forth between, say, the mayor and the governor over raising taxes on the wealthy?
Mischaracterizing it?
Or missing the boat, missing the main point? Because it sounds like there's something fundamental that's going on here that doesn't involve taking money from this or that earner, but sort of growing the whole economy and making sure we get new jobs.
Absolutely. This is the way we can solve this problem if we are growing and growing the tax base and having more taxes to serve people who are vulnerable in New York. This is the solution that we're not talking enough about. It avoids the harder trade-offs. Now, that's not something we can resolve between now and February 17th. We do have a budget to pass now. But if we don't refocus right now on growing New York's economy, on making this a place where people want to invest and hire and grow and expand, we have a very serious long-term problem, Meryl.
Okay. Thank you very much for that warning. Thanks so much for coming by. Great talking with you. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll bring you a possibility of a government shutdown over federal immigration enforcement funding. Stay with us.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer. As chief meteorologist at New York One, I'm honored to be able to help New Yorkers plan their day.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our Weather on the Ones. Watch the New York One weather experts with your Weather on the Ones on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
I moved from Dallas to Los Angeles all by myself. The order of things I wanted to I really did need the internet for work and like to watch my shows. That's like kind of a crazy thing to admit in front of a camera. Pretend I didn't say that. I got to Spectrum. I was so relieved that I was getting the best bang for my buck. It was a huge weight taken off of my shoulders.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. The White House and congressional Democrats are negotiating in the hopes of avoiding a partial government shutdown this weekend. Democrats are demanding reforms to rein in federal immigration agents after a pair of deadly shootings in Minneapolis. President Donald Trump told a cabinet meeting that he is hopeful a shutdown can be avoided. Our national reporter Evan Kosloff has more from Capitol Hill.
The Republican-led House of Representatives passed the funding measure last week to keep the government open past Friday. But on Thursday, that funding
The motion is not agreed to.
Every Democratic senator and over a half dozen Republicans voted no, as lawmakers have become increasingly alarmed with the immigration crackdown in Minneapolis, which has led to 2 shooting deaths of Minneapolis residents by federal immigration officers in the last month. That includes last weekend's killing of Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse.
Enough is enough.
The top Senate Democrat, Chuck Schumer, says that Democrats are withholding their support for the funding bill unless the administration agrees to reform how immigration officers operate. That includes an end to roving patrols, a new code of conduct, and a requirement that officers remove their masks and wear body cameras.
Americans do not support ICE terrorizing our streets, operating outside the law, killing American citizens. The madness and violence must end. Congress must act.
The failed vote added new urgency to intense negotiations between Democrats and the White House.
Hopefully we won't have a shutdown.
The president expressing optimism.
Believe not to have a shutdown. We don't want a shutdown.
Without a deal, the funding will run out not only for the agency overseeing immigration enforcement, but also other government agencies, including for defense and health programs. Senate Majority Leader John Thune saying this about the status of negotiations on Thursday afternoon.
Trending in the right direction, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
And one possible way to avoid this government shutdown is Democrats could agree to temporarily fund these agencies that need more money to give them more time for negotiations and to possibly cut a deal on immigration. Reporting here on Capitol Hill, I'm Evan Kosloff, Spectrum News.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, I'll be joined by City Council member Selvina Brooks Powers. We're going to talk about the future of Rikers Island and the City Council's veto overrides today. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this
and weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Earlier this week, a federal judge appointed Nicholas Demmel to be the new remediation manager. He's going to be tasked with overseeing and managing Rikers Island. That appointment is commonly referred to as a receivership, and it comes after a years-long lawsuit brought by Rikers Island detainees and federal prosecutors who found violence and dysfunction were pervasive in our city jails. Joining me now to talk about that and much more is City Council member Selvina Brooks Powers. Her district in Queens includes all or part of Edgemere, Jamaica, Far Rockaway, and other neighborhoods. She's also the chair of the City Council Committee on Criminal Justice. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So the appointment of this court receiver, how do you think Nicholas Demmel should curb the violence? What do you think needs to be done there?
So right now, we're looking at the need to speed up the timeline for those who are housed in custody as well as those who are working on Rikers Island. And so over the last couple of years, as you know, there have been a number of deaths at Rikers Island, a number of complaints that continue to manifest there. And so it is our hope that with this remediation monitor that he can help get the timeline back on track. While I don't think that it's going to be feasible for a closure for next year, it's a matter of how do we close as many facilities on the island as possible and as quickly as possible.
The mayor has repeatedly said that because this is the law, it's not just like, somebody's idea. It is the law, and it's supposed to be closed by 2027, that even if the deadline can't quite be met, we should be proceeding full steam ahead. It sounds like you're in agreement with that.
I absolutely am.
The NYPD, other news, was sued by the New York Civil Liberties Union, as we just reported, as well as the NAACP and Bronx Defenders, based on data showing that 84% of automobile stops in the last 3 years were of Black and Latino drivers. Is there a non-biased reason, as far as you're concerned, that 8.5 out of 10 drivers were Black and Latino drivers?
So that is a question that I have often looked at, even in my former role as chair for the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. For example, when we moved forward on a piece of legislation that was sponsored by Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse to decriminalize jaywalking, there are certain offenses that we find disproportionately impact Black and brown communities. And there is always that need to kind of look and see what leads to these higher rates. So it is something that absolutely should always be viewed when you see such a disproportionate number.
Yeah, I mean, the striking thing to me is that this happened with, on the watch of an African-American mayor who himself had been a member of the NYPD, who appointed an African-American, police commissioner, at least the first of his 4, and Latino as the second of his 4, and still this was going on. I'm wondering, what kind of systemic issues you're going to be able to investigate to try and get to the bottom of why this keeps happening.
Absolutely. On criminal justice, we are going to be looking to exercise our oversight with the Department of Corrections, the Department of Probation, and the Board of Corrections to really make sure that, one, we are pushing for safety, as I mentioned before, making sure that the laws are being followed and done justly, regardless of someone's race or gender or affiliation or what have you.
I wanted to ask you about today, the action of the City Council, where more than a dozen bills were overridden, vetoes that the last mayor had issued in his final days of his term, that included expanding access to affordable housing, reforming the street vending system, providing new protections for app-based delivery drivers, as we reported. Is there a theme there? Was there a fundamental disagreement between the ex-mayor and the City Council, or was there sort of a guiding philosophical difference there?
I would love to know the guiding philosophical difference that is there when we talk about survivors being able to get justice in the court. I thought it was awful that to issue a veto on the Gender Motivated Violence Act on Christmas Eve, something that was set to clarify legislation, because we found that in the courts there was some gray area that was being misinterpreted, when the original bill always set out for survivors to be able to get full justice. And so today, I'm tremendously proud of the members that I get to serve in the City Council with for overriding that veto. 51 votes in favor. That means every corner of New York City, every borough said that we stand with survivors.
And yeah, because the bill passed, it restores an 18-month look-back window,
yes,
so that survivors of gender-motivated violence can sue their attackers.
So they could sue, yes, the perpetrators as well as the institutions that may have turned a blind eye as well.
Right. It reaffirms that institutions that enabled gender-based violence, whether it's, say a hospital or some other kind of institution, and includes the Epstein estate.
It absolutely does.
Okay, very interesting. On one bill veto that was not overridden involved footage to the Civilian Complaint Review Board. It was going to provide real-time access to NYPD body-worn camera footage. Why was there no override, do you think? Did it have a majority, or as opposed to a supermajority?
So when we override vetoes, it requires a supermajority, which is 34 members out of the 51. And as the speaker indicated, this particular bill did not have the sufficient amount of votes. I was an original sponsor on this piece of legislation, and I would have liked to have seen this bill overridden, but unfortunately, we did not have the votes for it.
Are there other ways to strengthen the Civilian Complaint Review Board? They've, they've made some progress in recent years, but then they had some setbacks, including, losing the chair of the board and so forth.
Absolutely. So this council has been very focused on strengthening the CCRB. And the current speaker has communicated to the membership that she's looking to work with us to see if there are ways that we can be able to continue that work. And so in partnership, we look forward to addressing that in this term.
What are your priorities going to be for this session?
So as chair of the Committee on Criminal Justice, front and center, obviously, is the closure of Rikers Island, making sure we are able to speed up that process, make sure that we are looking at the alternatives to incarceration programming, increasing funding for those programs that are found to be effective. We are also looking at diversion programs as well, and making sure it has sufficient funding and addressing some of those underlying issues. And so what COVID showed us was there are mechanisms to be able to decrease the population at Rikers Island. And so being able to look at some of what worked and be able to reincorporate that so that we can be able to get closer to and ensuring those who are housed in custody, these are people that are returning into our community. And if we do not have a safe criminal justice system, that means that the people who go to work there that look to go home every day are not safe. That means that our communities are not safe when they're returning, if they're not getting the resources and support that they need. So that's going to be the focus of this term, excuse me.
Yeah, and just as a reminder to our viewers, because, you know, we use terms like closure of Rikers Island. It's not a matter of like closing the jails and then people just, you know, go anywhere. It's a transition to a different borough-based system where the Queens House of Detention is going to be rebuilt. The Brooklyn House is being rebuilt.
Bronx and Manhattan.
Bronx and Manhattan. They're going to build new facilities so that people will be in a different kind of place and closer to the courts. Thanks so much for coming by. Best of luck. We'll be talking again.
Thanks for having me.
All right. That's going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
That's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You're done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
You might think Spectrum is just for your home, but Spectrum is seamless connectivity everywhere. It's the network making the other networks sweat. Actual internet company, because internet is what you actually use your phone for. It's way more than 5G. With Spectrum One, it's 5G and fiber-powered internet, seamlessly combined for the fastest wireless speeds. Don't believe us? Ask this guy. He's one of millions who already know. Oh yeah, and this guy too. Turns out people like their mobile from a seamless connectivity company. That's why Spectrum is the country's fastest growing mobile provider. Spectrum One. It's only the seamless connection you love at home, everywhere you go. It's only everything.